Hey guys, Ian Flanagan here, and on this week's Freedom Friday Mastermind, we have the one and only Connor Steinbrook. He's going to be sharing the intimacies of his business, how he got started in real estate, how he blew eXp Realty off for 2 years, and what that looked like actually coming into eXp and what got his attention. But not only that, he's going to be sharing how he brought on Mike Sherrard. Mike Sherrard's going to be on the call as well, sharing his story about how he and Connor got connected and the value that they brought each other. But they're building a global business now. It's pretty incredible what they're doing to grow and build their organizations around the planet. So this is definitely a call that you want to jump on if you are serious about agent attraction and building your revenue share business. So if you have any questions, comments, type those in below, share this with your team members, and enjoy the video.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and kick off the call. This is the Freedom Friday Mastermind. My name is Ian Flanagan here in Dallas, Texas. My wonderful host and co-host, Pat Hayes, is enjoying St. Thomas with a lot of our other leaders down in the Caribbean right now. But we do this every Friday. So if you're a special guest, someone invited you to this call, this is something that there's probably thousands of Zoom calls every week with leaders all across our company. But our group, we get together every Friday. We like to interview rock stars, people that are crushing it in real estate sales, people that are crushing it in agent attraction and building big businesses. So welcome to the call. Thank you so much. Today we have an incredible special guest, one of my dear friends. And this story is going to just kind of trip you out because it took a long time for Connor to even pay attention to us, to even look at eXp Realty. But Connor's been in real estate for over a decade. He is a big dog investor here in our market. The guy has literally bought hundreds of homes. He buys them, he rents them, he holds them in his portfolio. And he also teaches a lot of other people how to invest in real estate as well. He is a YouTuber. I don't know if you guys have ever seen him on YouTube. He hosts the Investor Army YouTube channel. He's creeping up on 40,000 subscribers, guys. He's got millions and millions of views on his channel. He'll share a little bit more about that, but he's built a revenue share organization of over 1,400. It's moving so fast, I can't even keep track with it. It's probably over 1,500 now. I know Chris is one of the gentlemen on our team that just hit 1,500 agents in the organization. But the story of how he sponsored Mike Sherrard is going to really, I would say, blow you guys' mind because, right, Mike is a wild wolf that Connor wrangled in. So I'll let him share that story. But Connor truly has a passion for helping agents and investors achieve financial freedom. So Connor, welcome to the call, buddy. How are you?
What's going on, man? How's everybody doing? Good to see you guys.
We're good, man. Thanks for taking the call this morning. And so, man, tell us a little bit about Connor Steinbrook, man. I love your story. I know your story. A lot of people here don't know your story, but take us back, man. Where did Connor come from? How'd you grow up? And how the heck did you get into real estate?
Yeah, I mean, I live here in Dallas, Texas, and I started out going off to college in the University of Oklahoma back in 2003. And I was a freshman in college. I put $20 in a poker site for fun, and by accident, I became a professional poker player. So the funny thing is, throughout my career, one thing I can give you guys as a commonality of how to be successful is to find early adopter strategies where technology has been involved in changing that industry and put aggressive repetitions and time in before everybody else does. So a similar thing that's happening here at the eXp happened with the online poker boom. So back in the day, there was a big online poker boom explosion, brick and mortar casino game, technology infused in it. Now online, you could start playing with lower stakes and playing massive hand volumes. I was playing multiple tables at a time. In like 1 year, I was able to play more hands than any professional poker player had played in their career. So the learning curve was shortened. So I played a lot and I got really good at what I was doing. I did that for about 8 years and I was a professional poker player. What happened to me was in 2013 or 2011 on April 15th, there's a day called Black Friday, and our United States Department of Justice seized the 2 big poker sites that everybody was making their money on, Full Tilt Poker and PokerStars. So it'd literally be like, guys, if we woke up tomorrow and they said, turn in your real estate license, turn in over all your rental properties, we seized the real estate industry. And so it wasn't just that my life disappeared overnight, it was that every single one of my friends in my entire world disappeared overnight. And so that was a very tough time for me, and I learned a lot of hard lessons, which a lot of agents in our organization hear me talk about all the time. The first one is you cannot have one income stream. You have to have more than one income stream. Doesn't matter how good that income stream is or how big your skill set is. Things happen in life liabilities, children, grandchildren, health issues, taking care of your parents, things like this. Second thing I realized was I can't do everything on my own. I was a poker player, so everything came on my energy levels. If I was tired, if I was sick, if it was a holiday, if it was a birthday, I had time constraints. I couldn't carry the load long term doing everything on my own. So I needed to learn how to have duplication. I think we have a business model here that allows for duplication and leverage, right? So you need to have multiple rentals, multiple YouTube videos, multiple agents, multiple employees, multiple oil holes, multiple businesses. Duplication creates wealth. You create the duplication. The third thing is I realized I wanted to create wealth. And so I went out there and started studying wealth creators. And I realized that they don't work for active income as much as they work for residual income and equity models. And so equity can grow without time allocation to grow it, because if you buy a stock and the stock triples, how much time did you put in to grow it? If you own a rental property, the rental market goes up. You didn't put any effort in to make that rental market go up. So I realized equity can expand time in a weird way, but it can also help me grow my net worth without my time directly tied to it. And then the real reason I ended up getting into real estate was passive income. And so those four things I realized create wealth: multiple streams of income, leverage through duplication, equity models, and residual income models. And so I said I needed a vehicle to get to my goals, which is I wanted to become wealthy. And so basically, as I said, I was going to go into real estate investing. And so I jumped in the real estate investing space at all things, and I failed miserably. I went like $100,000 in debt.
Like most of us have failed in the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, and just to be honest, guys, that's why what we're doing here is such an incredible opportunity for you guys, because to build a cash flow business without taking on debt, without taking on risk, without taking on overhead and accounting and all the headaches that we deal with building like a really logistically heavy business model like my house flipping business and my investing business, it's just there's never been an opportunity to do this. So what happened to me was I basically did anything and everything I could to try to generate leads from direct mail, pay-per-click. I tried everything, failed horribly, found a bunch of criminals in my marketplace. And before I knew it, I was pretty much $100,000 in debt. I was coming down to the end of my credit cards. I didn't know what I was going to do. I'd had to move back home with my parents. I was living upstairs in my sister's bedroom, working off like a bar stool as literally like my desk. I can't even believe this, but I'm trying to figure out how to generate leads, and I ran out of money. And so I was getting close. I was figuring out how to build websites. I was on a website platform called Investor Carrot, and I was teaching myself search engine optimization, how to optimize websites to short tail and long tail keywords. At the time, Google had just acquired YouTube. So I was taking YouTube channels or YouTube videos and linking it to my websites. And I was starting to get traction. I was coming up the ranks, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So this is kind of the story where I try to tell people, you just have to do what you have to do. I literally had to go get a job working for minimum wage because I needed to have enough money coming in that I could keep my websites up, keep my bills coming in. So I was working at Academy Sports and Outdoors. I was putting like 14, 16-hour days and then go sweeping floors at night while I was like negotiating deals out of bathroom stalls and things like that. sweeping floors. And so I realized the power of YouTube as it started to drive up my website rankings, basically. And I started to generate leads on the internet. And because of YouTube helping the optimization of my websites, I built the #1 house buying websites in North Texas, literally while I was working for minimum wage out of my sister's bedroom.
I remember that, man, because I've dabbled with pay-per-click and motivated sellers and generating seller leads, and I would see your name come up right underneath the ads. So just to give everybody a framework here of what Connor's talking about, because Connor talks fast and I know his story pretty deeply, but Connor basically built a lead funnel in our local market here in Dallas, Texas, one of the most competitive pay-per-click markets in the country, to where when somebody says sell a house, need to sell a house, whatever the case may be, Connor's websites were organically coming up on the first page of Google. Yep. So how did that affect your business?
It exploded it. So I went from working for $10 an hour to making $100,000 a week at one point, where I was making a lot of money flipping and selling houses. And so basically what happened was I cracked the code of internet marketing. It was a big deal because of YouTube. That helped me do this. And so my websites rose up to the top of the rankings for most of the major cities. I started out building a large wholesaling company. And then as I was able to accrue up money and start getting out of debt, I started flipping houses. And then I got to the real goal, which I started in real estate for, which was residual income. I started being able to keep rental properties. And I realized rental properties create cash flow, not as much passive as I wanted. So I transitioned a lot of my properties into what's called owner finance notes. I started selling my properties through owner financing. I started creating notes, selling partial notes.
That's how you and I met.
Yep. So Ian was ran a massive owner finance company here in North Texas and through Oklahoma City. And so I started buying land, mobile homes on land. I did a lot in the single family space. And then I built my YouTube channel, Investor Army, which kind of took off and became Texas's #1 largest real estate investing YouTube channel. It's now the single largest residential real estate investing YouTube channel at EXP out of any of our agents here. And this channel got a lot of attention, as you can imagine, as it started growing. And that's when people started reaching out to me about, hey, have you heard of EXP? Hey, have you heard of EXP? Including Chris and a lot of people at the same time. And I blew everybody off. For like 2 years, I wasn't really paying close attention to it. And I listened to people, but I wasn't really listening. So in my mind, I wasn't interested at all. But what was the problem was I didn't allow myself to develop a level of interest because I never gave myself an opportunity to really look at it with an open mind. And this is what you guys need to understand. When people are sitting there in front of you and you're talking to agents, They may or may not be interested legitimately, but it doesn't matter. Levels of interest can change depending on the information that they have and what they've seen. And if anybody that's an entrepreneur understands truly what this company is giving us, they would be here right now, but they just don't understand it. Because if you're not bringing agents on, guys, there's somewhere in your communication process or your approach to the agents where you're confusing them or not getting to the information that they need to hear. So a lot of times you guys are approaching people at the wrong time or bringing the wrong tonality or energy to the conversation, and people are there present listening to you, but they're not actually cognitively processing the information. They're sitting across from you, listening and nodding, but they're not engaged. And so they're not actually listening, if that makes sense. And that's where I think a lot of people struggle with communication with recruiting agents, is they can't convey what's in their mind, the value that they see, to the other person. And if you can't do that, they're never going to see the opportunity.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute, because I mean, everybody has, you know, a certain skill set and all that, but most people don't have a recruiting skill set, right? It's something that we develop over time of, you know, being at the company, right? Developing the ability to be able to ask questions and figure out what's really important to them. Because obviously, you know, you basically blew EXP off for 2 years. Think about the opportunity cost that you lost there for just not being open-minded. So I remember there was an event, you share the story, but there was something that triggered you that said, okay, I need to pay attention to this. So after a year and a half, 2 years, Connor met Rob at in Jacksonville, or no, was it Jackson, Mississippi? So share that story of what really changed the shift in your mind to look at EXP.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things, you know, obviously I knew you and Chris for a long time. And Chris, I remember seeing Chris at like one event, his rev shares were getting up to like 1,500, something like that. So I was like, well, that's interesting. You know, Chris is able to do this and start creating rev share. And then around the same time, a lot of people reached out to me at the same time. And so I'm a big believer in what's called the echo effect. Now, the echo effect can be seen in different ways, but what I see it as, one of the ways to interpret the echo effect is if you start hearing a name out there in the marketplace over and over and over, you need to start paying attention to what's going on. Uber, 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 Google, 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 EXP, 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 right? So I started hearing it everywhere. So that's the first sign something's happening, guys, for you to turn your signals and pay attention. But you know, I knew that it was an opportunity for a lot of you guys, but I wasn't a real estate agent. It was the problem. I was a real estate investor, so I didn't have a real estate license.
And you actually did videos of why you would never get a real estate license.
Yeah, actually, I had to take videos down, actually. Yeah. And, because I made plenty of money through active income. I didn't want to sell real estate. That didn't make sense to me. I wanted to build my residual income, right? But nobody had told me really, and nobody had slowed me down, or I didn't give anybody an opportunity, even you guys really, to explain you can build these big massive residual incomes at EXP as an agent. And so what happened was I was speaking at an owner financing event in Mississippi, and Rob Quick, as you guys know, is the legend of our company, #1 guy in the company, was speaking at that same event. And the promoter of that event put Rob up in a house with me for 3 days with a couple other speakers. And it was like midnight. I'm sitting there in the living room, and here comes this guy walking in the door. I have no idea who Rob is. And he sits down, he's talking to us, and he's basically telling us, you know, or he's asking us about what we're doing here, what we're speaking on. And then I told him what I was doing. And then he starts saying, well, I'm here to speak on EXP Realty. And I was like, oh, right. Like, that's like midnight. I'm like, hey, Rob, you know, I gotta go to sleep, man. I know it's because I've been there, right? You know, I've been approached numerous times with people trying to bring me onto EXP, and I didn't even have a license. But then he pulled out the cloud. He starts walking around, and I'm like, why is this guy playing a video game like in the middle of the night? Like, this is because I didn't really look at the model that much at that moment. And then he starts telling me who he is. And he starts saying he built Keller Williams, and he's top 15 in history of Keller Williams. So I'm paying a little bit more close attention now. And so I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll take a look at this. And he shows me his back office. And it's just like that movie from Wolf of Wall Street, when he's like, you proved to me you make $72K a month. I quit my job. I work for you. He shows me, he shows me like I think it was like $105,000 or $110,000 in his back office. And I just remember this is in 2017. I just remember being like, this is almost 10 months into the year. It's like late September, early October. And I'm thinking in my mind, that's like $10K a month. I'm like, that's pretty good. Like, most real estate investors don't get up to $10,000 a month. And a lot of people, $10,000 a month would change their life. And he looks at me, I just never forget it. That's my monthly rev share. And I was just like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. How long have you been at the company? He's just over a few years, right? It's like a little over 2 years. And I was basically like, Rob, you proved to me that you're making 6 figures a month building this business, a residual income with no debt, no asset, no tenants, no management side, no, you know, headaches, no back-end liabilities. I'll go get my real estate license, and I'll travel around the country, and I'll build this business with you. And that's essentially what happened, you know. And so Rob is still in the lineage above me. So I'm partners with Rob, but you know, I came back and I'd known Chris and I'd known Ian, and I talked to Pat, and I've been working with them, and they've been working on me for 2 years. And, I'd always told them if I came to EXP that I'd come with them. And so that's pretty much kind of what happened. But it was a chance happening that I got that lucky break because I completely written EXP off, guys. And so what you need to take from the story is I truly meant it when I said I wasn't coming to EXP. Now I'm here and look at the success we've had. So when people are telling you guys they're not coming, that doesn't mean they won't come later, right? And there's another person that told me on here that he wouldn't come either. And he's smiling right now. And so we'll probably talk about that. I don't know when you want to get into that a little bit later.
Well, we'll get into that because I want to back up and really share the story and really put a perspective to people of what you did to get the numbers up before you even met Mike, because we were a part of that in the very beginning. Yeah. So check it out. So was that October? So get this, guys, Connor had no real estate license. So he came back to Dallas, enrolled, and just banged out his real estate license and take it from there. So
yeah, so I passed my real estate license as fast as the state would let me do it. I was licensed within barely over a month. And then I recruited, I think, 36 people in the first 6 months. Now, at the time, that was like the most anybody done in the company. Now people like Mike has just like blown that completely out of the water. But at the time, I think it was Kendra and I were the only people to recruit 40 people in our first year. But people have now cracked the code and built systems around this. But I came in and we were doing all sorts of different things, and I used my YouTube channel a little bit, but probably not as much as people think to attract agents. I did this like straight up face-to-face going.
You were bootstrapping it, but you were already kind of in a national circuit, right? You were speaking at different events. So share a little bit about that, because that's how you and I got met when I was on the circuit speaking, but you actually leveraged it as much as you could. So, you're traveling around the country, you're speaking at events that get you in front of agents, investors. So share about that, about how you started growing that way.
Yeah, so like I would travel to masterminds and I would travel to local events, and this is where I would do my networking and I would meet people, and I wouldn't press too hard, guys. I think this is a big issue I see with agents is they just try to recruit people within 5 minutes. And by their side, their perspective, this is coming from greed and selfishness. And if you're going into a long-term working relationship without trying to build a relationship first, how's that going to work, right? So either you have to build a massive credibility on the internet like Mike has through inbound recruiting, and people come to you because they built rapport through the internet already, or if you're going to go out to the cold market and meet people that you don't know, you're going to have to build that rapport one-on-one with them, right? And so I was always just, figure out how I can lead with value and do something for these individuals. So I build relationships and I try to find times to go to dinner or lunch after those events, or even at these events, these are 2 to 3 day weekend events and things like that. And so I'd be going to lunches and dinners and things, and I'd just start building the relationship. I'd look at what they're doing with their business. I'd try to offer them value. And then later I'd go back and I'd say, hey, is it cool if I show you what we're doing over here at this company called EXP, essentially? And then I'd go ask for the sit down. So I think a lot of people are asking first, giving no value. When you need to lead with value, ask second. And this is the biggest problem I think people are struggling with is, I get it, you guys want to go quick. The opportunity's here. You want to change your life. But if you go too fast, you're going to scare the pigeons, right? So if you have a bunch of pigeons in the park and you run up on them, they get scared away. But if you walk up on them, they're going to eat out of your hand, right? And so it's just a level of energy that you're bringing, the intensity on how you're coming at people. And I think a lot of people need just to back off a little bit and understand that this is a career-long business. You have your entire career to build this. You're looking for people that not only are you going to be friends with, but you can also enjoy working with, that also you can go and build an empire with, right? So you don't need to just rush out there and look at everybody because they have a real estate license. It's something that you have to hunt down. And but Rob always says, grab your spear and go start spearing agents, right? But you need to look at people as, how can I figure out how this business model is going to fit their goals and how can this make their future better? And if you can figure that out, and then you can show that and illustrate that to them where they can see the same vision that you painted for them, and they can see how the numbers are going to work for them, they're going to come over here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
It's all about the agent, not about you.
Yeah. So let's talk about the next phase, YouTube, and the enter in Mike Sherrard. So talk a little bit about that, because you know what? I mean, you're on YouTube, you're a YouTube influencer, and then you start seeing different YouTubers coming into the company. And then at that point, everybody's getting blown up about EXP. So how are you able to get the attention of an influencer like Mike Sherrard?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Mike actually, I don't know. How did it all play out, Mike?
Mike, let's hear this. Let's hear the story from your perspective.
They'd rather hear from Mike anyways.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting because It's almost like reverse recruiting, where I was the one that had a super small YouTube channel and I was trying to be strategic and find all these people on YouTube that had bigger audiences than me. And I'm like, I'm going to reach out to them and try and leverage their audience to build mine. Because when I saw Connor, he had like 36,000 subscribers or something like that. And I had 2,000. And I'm like, well, he's way bigger than I am. And it was really funny because I added him on Facebook and I started messaging this freaking guy every single week, commenting on all of his posts, all of his YouTube videos. And he blew me off. He wouldn't respond to anything. And then one time, like probably a month or two after me blowing him up every single week, he finally responds and is like, okay, like, I guess we can do like a collaboration video together. So we did one, on his channel and it went really well. And then we did one on my channel and it went even better. And then that's kind of how the relationship all started. And it was funny because even still after those collaborations, like I told Connor, I'm like, there's no way in hell I'm joining EXP, because I knew all of the YouTubers at EXP. If you guys know anybody that's on YouTube that's on EXP, not only do I know them, but I've met up with most of them and had like lunch with these people. And there was no way in hell I was going to join any of them. And then this is where the journey all began.
Well, because I remember there in the beginning, it was several months from the first time I even heard Connor mention to you or mention to me your name. And then next thing you know, he's sending me pictures of you and like Brian Casella and you and all these different people. So Connor was like, oh man, everybody's coming after Mike. So talk about, what was it, man? I mean, what was your deciding factor, right? You had all these people courting you, Mike, and then Connor was that one guy that did something different. What was it?
Yeah. So I think it goes back to Connor saying about like, building relationships. Like what you have to understand, guys, is, I know Ian, Chris, Pat, passing on here, but Connor, like everybody says that it's like, if you had the cure for cancer, like, would you keep it to yourself or would you share with the world with passion? You probably share with the world because you're making a difference in so many people's lives. EXP is a cure to what most people want to achieve in real estate and never end up doing it, because you see so many agents in your market that are at the age where they wish they could retire and they can't, and they're still chasing the next deal. And what happens is a lot of people can't think past the next transaction or the next year is like the furthest window of sight that people have. Is like most people right now can't think past the end of 2022. Some can't even think past the end of 2021, right? So when you can future pace what's going to happen to these agents who have no exit strategy, no security blanket for their family, they just don't get it, but we do because we're here. So what happened with Connor is, I blew him off, and you guys, if you see us speak at EXPCon on the Thursday there in the fire starter session, like you'll see the message that Connor sent me where he said like, you should come look at this model. And I told him like, hey man, I know X, Y, and Z names at EXP. There's no way I'm coming to this model. But what Connor did, I don't know if it was strategic, probably, is we just built the relationship where, we started talking to each other on a weekly basis about ideas separate to EXP, about running masterminds, about helping me with my YouTube channel to build my influence. And he started leading with value. And I started seeing like, damn, this guy thinks exactly like I do. And then after probably about 3-4 months, it got to the end of my, third year in real estate. And it kind of got to the point where, I was sick and tired of chasing the next deal. And I started thinking, well, if this guy thinks like I do, and he's where he is, and I know I have a similar work ethic to him, why would we not want to be partners? And like, here's the thing, guys. And I always tell people that are trying to weigh the decision of whether or not to come to EXP, and Connor kind of said this to me too, is you have a decision to join or not to join. If you don't join, my thought process was, I'm going to see this guy that I'm personally connected to that's going to build a 6-7 figure per month residual income that I know I work as hard as, and I'm going to be pissed if he does it and I don't. And you're going to continue to see that EXP is a race for market share. It's like, if you knew like inevitably that crypto, like Bitcoin, was going to go up to $100,000 back when it was $5,000, how much would you buy? As much of it as humanly possible. EXP is a race for market share. And Connor knew that and was able to tell me that. So I realized, let's capitalize on the opportunity. The opportunity was to join, and you have nothing to lose if you join this company, because you're not in some bullshit contract like half the other brokerages out there that you can't leave after a certain amount of time. If you leave, you lose half your life. Like, it's like a freaking marriage, for God's sakes. So if you leave, if it doesn't work out, you lose nothing. If it does work out, it can change your life. So if you don't join, you have regret. If you do join, you have nothing to lose. Why would you not want to swing for the fences and give it a shot? So when I started seeing, and this is the last thing I'll say about this topic, is everybody else that reached out to me had absolutely nothing to offer. Even though they had bigger YouTube channels, even though they had all the clout, all the influence, everybody knew their name. A lot of people, what you guys will see, become influential because they're a one-trick pony. They know how to put out cool YouTube videos, but they don't understand business strategy, retention, growth, nurturing. Like, they don't get business. And all of them are reaching out to me because of my production and my, social media presence, and basically treated me as like a golden ticket to making them money. And nobody sat me down and said, here's what I can do for you, and here's what it could do for your business. Because at the end of the day, all EXP is a vehicle of taking people from where they are today to where they want to go. That's it. Connor was the only one to phrase it that way, of here's how it specifically apply to your business, because every other person on YouTube sent me the same bullshit video that everybody has sent to everybody and couldn't answer a single one of my questions. And that's where it was the best decision of my life, to align with Connor, somebody that I didn't know, never heard of, in a completely opposite side of the continent, because he actually got it.
Yeah, that's powerful. Connor. Yeah, man. I mean,
Well,
that's the story, right? You took the time, you built the relationship, and you added value. You guys started collaborating. And then at some point, Mike was like, all right, maybe I should take a look at this. And what you guys have built is just phenomenal.
Get ready.
Congratulations. Yeah. Hey, get ready. Yeah. It's just the beginning. And that's the thing that most people don't realize. And Mike, you obviously, saw this, right? Even in the beginning, right? The first couple months, like, you weren't firing on all cylinders. It still took a little bit of time for you to make that transition, not only in your business, but the mindset, and then get your head around the possibilities. Because even I was talking to an agent yesterday. It's like, I never even thought outside of my local market. There was no reality of me growing outside of Dallas, Texas. And now it's like, we're growing a global business. And when I tell people that, they just don't understand it. And now you've tapped into, like, literally a digital real estate brokerage that is growing around the world like a freaking pandemic. Like, you ain't stopping. This thing is just getting bigger and bigger. We're first to market in all these countries around the world. So let's talk about that. So you guys came in together, you're building. So Connor, share a little bit about kind of what you guys are doing now to, bring agents in, support your agents, and retain them.
I mean, the main thing, guys, is you need to understand what you have in your hands. It's not a little squirt gun, it's a rocket launcher. And a lot of people are still playing a local game, which is what when I originally talked to Mike, I was like, do you run your social media business? Do you just want to sell courses locally, or do you want to sell courses all around the world? Basically impressing, why do you run your sales business here locally when you can run an international business, essentially from the seat of your house, and leverage your brand? Plus, Mike had just changed his branding from a real estate focused channel to a social media focused channel, which led me to understand that he didn't want to be in production anymore. And I figured everybody else was going to be reaching out, telling him he's going to be an icon agent. And I told Mike what I tell you. I said, I'm going to teach you never sell a house again, right? I'm going to tell you how to build it. I was like, selling houses isn't cool. Building a team of 1,000 agents is going to make you a legend, right? And so I came from a little bit different approach. But the way that this all started was an approach for international market share growth. So we have an overall company as a mass agent count growing on a mass marketplace. But in each marketplace, you're at different stages of early adopter growth, right? And so at the time, Canada had just opened up. And so I said, I was researching all North America, trying to figure out where's the best place to put my time and efforts. And at the time, most of the density of EXP was in the southern states, Texas, California, Arizona, and Florida, but there wasn't a lot of population in the Northeast or the Northwest or across Canada. So what I did was I tried to figure out the markets that had the lowest EXP agent populations with the highest agent counts, with the highest average price points. So that I figured because rev-share is easier to build with high price point markets. And that's why I started to start reaching out to agents in Canada. That's when I brought also Aditya and some of the other ones. So that was intentful, guys. I want you to understand something that, results you see today came from goals on pen and paper yesterday. So this was not an accident that, like now Mike looking in from hindsight, at the time when they're talking to that person, they don't know that you're coming from a strategy on how that conversation started, but that was intentful. Now, because of that, we understand this, and we're intentful to grow worldwide. So that's why Mike brought in a 100-person broker from India. We're bringing in agents. Mike brought one in from Australia. So we're looking not just to play locally, we're trying to play globally. Why do we want to play globally? Because the size of your market's directly related to the size of your business. And I always remember a mentor teaching me, if you build one successful business or system in a local market, you can make $1 million. Take that same system, duplicate it and replicate it into multiple markets all across the country. You could be a multimillionaire, do it globally, same business, think of like a McDonald's or anything else that's a global business, you're now a billionaire, right? Because you have something that works, it creates cash flow, it creates revenue, and to scale it, if you can duplicate it out or into a bigger marketplace, you're going to make even more money with that same system, if that makes sense. So our goal is to build worldwide, is kind of what we're focused on. We're doing this through social media primarily, but I don't know, what's your take, Mike? What do you want to add on to on that?
Yeah, I think like, especially going into this time of year, I think it's just important for people to understand, like, no is not, no, it's not now. Like, you know, just to give you guys an example, like the first conversation Connor had with me in terms of when he first reached out to me about EXP was February 19th of 2019. I joined April 22nd of 2020. Like, think about the follow-up, right? Because, you know, if he didn't keep in touch with me, if he didn't offer to lead with value, where, you know, when I blew him off and told him basically like, F you, I don't ever want to look at EXP, he immediately flipped the script and said, no problem, let's talk about YouTube. He didn't say, well, that sucks, and dip off like most people do. You know, and now it's to the point where like all the other people that are, you know, that were on YouTube that were reaching out to me, like they've been at EXP longer than Connor has, and I've built a bigger organization in the last 18 months, and all of them have, just because I have the right systems. And I think, you know, it's really important to look at who your sponsor is. Like one of the reasons why I chose Connor too is he filled in the void of everything that I was weak at, right? So I was good at social media, content marketing, and production, but Connor was really good at investing, communication, network marketing, structure businesses, because he had past experience there, and he's been here. So when you start looking at it, it's like finding the right partner to fill in the voids of what your weak points are. So when you come together, you build this incredible synergy of alignment that helps you guys flourish. So now when people come to me and Connor, there's not one thing they could be looking for that we don't offer, because we both cover the full gamut of what people would need in order to build a flourishing business. But I think it's really important to look at getting compensated more for doing the same thing that you're already doing. And that's what a lot of people don't think about, is a lot of people take the approach, and I hear this all the time, is when you're looking to attract at scale, a lot of people lead with their revenue share, or they lead with their stock. I have literally never once, and I average about 7 Zoom calls a day with agents looking to join us. I have never once shown a single human being what my revenue share is or what my stock is at EXP, ever. And I never will. I don't care if it's $1 million a month, which it will get there. I'm never going to show somebody that. The question people always come to me with is, hey, Mike, I just want to know, like, what makes the wolf pack different? And I never answer that question either. I always revert and say, before I answer that, I want to know what you're looking for. And that is the biggest pivot and the inflection point that changes your conversion rate, because every single person says, I've never had anybody else ask me that. Everybody else just vomits their value stack and what makes them different and all of this nonsense that they never even fulfill when somebody comes in. I want to know, what are they looking for? Because that way you can strategically tailor this model to anything anybody's looking for, whether they want to retire, revenue share, exit strategy, agent equity program, whether they want to focus on increasing their production, 50 hours of training, 7 layers of value above you for free, compensated through the company and the Icon program, whether they want to, you know, build a social media platform. Now you're attracting and increasing your production simultaneously. There's not one thing somebody can tell me that they want to do that this model can't adhere to and help them do better than any other brokerage. But you have to find out what they're looking for, what they want, instead of just vomiting how incredible EXP is and then not catering the model to what that person's actually looking for. And that was the best thing that Connor did for me, what I've done to convert brokerages, teams, top producers every single week.
Yeah, that's awesome, guys. So, hey, listen, we're coming up on about 22 or 23 minutes till the top of the hour. We're going to do a hard stop right at the top of the hour. So guys, let's open up the mics. If somebody has a question they want to ask Connor or Mike, because you guys are running buddies, partners. I mean, and that's the thing about EXP, right? I had the pleasure of running with Connor for his first 2 years, right? And then Connor just turned into a freaking, we have this little joke. We call them fiery tail unicorns, right? People that just get it. They're on fire. They build businesses. So if you guys don't have running buddies, that's number one. that's the thing, is when you bring people into the company, you got to find people that see the vision and want to run. So what questions do you guys have for some of our top influencers here? So don't be shy. If you're shy, type them into the questions down here in the chat bar, and we'll read them out there. So Connor, what are some of your goals now, man? I mean, now that you've achieved the dream of what we had, 3-4 years ago, right? You're now making that residual income that completely exceeds all your expenses. You can travel the world. You can basically do anything you want.
Hey,
So, all right, here we go. Go ahead, Ahmad.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Good morning. Love the story, guys. I mean, you guys are a bunch of fucking beasts. Let me tell you that. Phenomenal. They're really phenomenal. So congratulations and God bless. And I hope to one day just, follow your guys' footsteps. So real quickly, guys. So, I joined AXP about 3 months ago. Really excited. A friend of mine brought me on, and, I'm part of the Wolf Pack. Let's go, Wolf. So
Right.
one thing is, what do you recommend? How would you approach the conversation about, EXP and what they have to offer? Like, because to your point, Mike, or to your point, Connor, sometimes people do come in and running towards the pages and they all fly away. Or sometimes people just feel like, you're just trying to sell them something, because we live in a society where everyone is selling something to someone at some point. So what do you guys recommend?
I mean, it's kind of like what we were just talking about with what Mike says. It's if you're just going to go in thinking about what you need to say, you're looking at things from a one-sided perspective, because it's not about you, it's about them. And the only way to know how to start a conversation with someone is to lead through questions and gather data from them, right? So you need to get into the conversation, you need to start asking questions. What are their numbers? What are their production levels? So you want to find out kind of basics of what they've been doing up until the stage where they got to, how long they've been in the industry. And you want to gather all their math questions, because it's very important later when you go try to make the opportunity real from them and do a side-by-side net comparison net sheet for them. But you need to ask them questions about things like, why they moved the brokers they moved before. So let's say, you've moved from KW to Remax. Well, why did you make that decision to move? Well, there you go. There's the number one decision-making factor that they used to make their decision before. What's important going forward in your future? Where do you see your business going? Are you trying to build a team? So you're gathering all the data, you're trying to find out about a little bit about them. And as you have this data, now you have a little bit more of a strategy to go into the conversation more prepared. And so if you guys are just going in blind, what you're doing is you're taking preset information and you're deciding what you want to throw at someone, not based off them, but based off you. And what a lot of people are trying to do is recruit themselves. So what a lot of young recruiters are doing is they're trying to recruit people to EXP for the reasons they joined EXP. And I've recruited people with not even telling them about the rev share model. I've recruited people without even showing them a slide deck presentation, right? I mean, I brought on some people out of a pool at masterminds, like I brought Jay Beacon out of a pool at a mastermind in Cancun, right? So you need to figure out who the person you're talking to is, what their goals are. And because of social media, there's so much information out there, guys. It doesn't take a long time to just hop on their profile and find this information out. For example, when I talked to Mike, I knew that Mike's mentor was Ed Milet and Andy Frisella, right? And so what did I say to you, Mike? I said, did Ed Milet make his money by selling insurance, or did he make it by building a worldwide team of amassed agents? So I took who Mike idolized, who doesn't like Ed Milet. So I took one of the leading figures in Mike's mind, and I paid a commonality of our industry to that industry in the same business type of model and how Ed created his wealth. And I think that played a big connection. I don't know, Mike, maybe you can tell, but you can't have a conversation like that with someone and dig into to what's going to hit home for them unless you know a little bit about them. And if you don't have any background on them, you have to start asking questions to get into the conversation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's completely makes sense. And I think just to piggyback on that, two quick things that I want to say is, like, a lot of people are looking at rev share as money, like in the sense of, like, they're looking at it as, okay, if I bring this agent as $2,800, like, they're looking at it from a selfish monetary perspective, whereas you need to come at it from a value driven, selfless perspective of changing this person's life and giving them an opportunity that they otherwise would have known have. And that's the problem with a lot of groups, is they're always thinking about notch on the belt, get an agent onto the next one, get an agent on the next one. And the reason I've broken every personal record at EXP about with agent attraction is we more so focus on bringing in one person, helping them absolutely dominate it with this model, which turns into a running case study for a portfolio, and the success follows success, and then they're going to naturally attract other people. So focusing on actually helping people and not thinking I need to get my rev share up. So I need to go talk to more people. When you help people and you lead with, creating legacy and impact, you're going to grow so much quicker. And I think, just to backtrack what Connor says, the number one most important thing anybody can do is learn the actual model. You have no idea how many calls I've been on that have this many people on it. And there's people in the chat box asking what an FLQA is. Like, if you can't answer right now what an FLQA is, exactly the math breakdown of the revenue share right off the top of your head without looking at the PowerPoint, how much stock you get when you bring an agent in, when they cap, when you bring it, when you close your first deal, how the agent equity program works, how the icon works both ways, 500K, 10 transactions or 20 deals after capping. Like, if you guys can't explain every single nuance of the model, you need to get back to the drawing board before you even reach out to people, because you have no idea how many people I've seen reach out to me from other teams at EXP saying, Mike, like, I didn't even know, like, I could attract outside of my market. I didn't even know I could get an icon status. Like, they don't even know the model. So if you don't know the model, what's going to happen is that's going to be a trickle effect, and you're going to ill-advise people because of your lack of understanding, which means you're actually hurting their business instead of leading with value and helping their business. So the thing that we did, and this is like the one only personal thing that I'll share about our group and what we do behind the scenes, is knowing this, we did a challenge within our group where we had everybody in our group record my full 1 hour presentation on how to properly explain EXP and our value proposition for 1 month straight. Every single week, everybody had to submit their presentation of them presenting the model, how I presented. And what you would see is the first week, a lot of people that were saying they thought they had it figured out couldn't present a 10th of the presentation. By the end of the month, everybody had it dialed, and their skill set, their confidence, their excitement about the model skyrocketed, because now they realize what they didn't know, what they do know, how to improve, and how to tailor it to other people. So the foundation, all that EXP is who understands the model the best and who can communicate that message towards each individual. And that will lead you to everything you could ever dream of here.
Yeah. And guys, right now, there's never been a time where understanding the model is more beneficial than it's ever been, because you think about how many new agents are coming in. You have all these people coming in. When people come into the marketplace, their skill sets are the lowest they'll ever be, but their excitement's the highest they'll ever be. So they're going out there pure off emotion, right? And so if you guys take the time to learn what you're doing, you have a little bit higher level of competency about explaining the business model. Do you want to sit down with, say you sat down with 3 people. One person doesn't have the answers for you, fumbling over their words. Other person has a few more answers. And another person says, okay, here's the answer, but I can also give you a couple different ways of looking at this. It could work for your business this way, but we could also step back and restructure it and do it this way. This way might be better for your agents. So if you come from a position where you speak with conviction, you're transferring the energy of confidence through your voice, a lot of times people are making decisions on who they work with, not off what they're saying, but how they're saying it, and the delivery of that transference of energy of confidence in what they know and how they're delivering, if that makes sense. And so if you also understand you're giving them nuances of our business model, like Mike, we always talk about, like, in the willable policy of the rev share. I know that, like, when people hear these things that you bring up, it says, I know more about what I'm doing than the other people that you talk to. And naturally, as humans, do we want to move towards the person that knows more or less about what they're doing? Because if you're going to go into a business relationship with someone, do you want to follow someone into something that they're taking half-ass, that they're barely trying? Like seriously, guys, like, would you join an opportunity with someone that doesn't know what they're talking about? As we get going, it's very common now, and you've talked to all the leadership team in the company and executives, people are out there sponsor shopping. Like, it's no longer who's the first person people talk to. That was like 3 years ago. Now it's people are talking to 5, 6, 7 teams trying to figure out where they want to move to. And if you can't paint a picture of why you have a better long-term opportunity and you can help these individuals throughout their career do the best, then they're going to go with a different organization. And that's what it is. It's coming down to who creates the biggest value proposition for the agents coming in. And that's why we spend so much time, creating resources, creating tools, creating a system, creating a family, creating this, and, having our agents get out there on the internet and push what we're doing, because we know how competitive it's going to be long-term. And so we're building a system now that's going to make us successful forever throughout what we're doing here. So we're building leadership teams and transferring information that we've learned to them as fast as possible. And I think a lot of people and the organizations are going slow because they don't work together, they don't run together, they don't create systems, they don't care about their team, and they're just stacking people on and going to the next one, but they're not slowing down to actually build a business. They're just out there focusing on recruiting and going forward. And that's why I think you see some people with these big front lines, but no organization, because the most important skill set in business, guys, is leadership, communication, and motivation, and getting people on the battlefield, right? Getting people to actually go out there and put time into the business. So you can either increase your revenue by increasing attraction, retaining more agents, or increasing production. Add more agents, lose less, or sell more houses. And so we focus on all three of these things. And also we focus a lot on emotional patterns for our agents, and understand that business is tough and people, are always going to deal with peaks and troughs, anxiety, depression, things like this. And so if you can help keep the morale high on the battlefield, energy levels are higher, more hours of work go into the business, and you're going to see a higher return at the end of the year on the organization that you're building.
So there's a lot to unpack there, man. So that's a takeaway for everybody: building your organization, building the brokerage within the brokerage. Essentially, that's the opportunity that we have, is building a global business on the back of a larger company. And we're very proud to have that opportunity. Sorry, that was a great question, guys. So who else has a question? And yes, guys, I will be pulling this down. It does take a few hours to compress an hour-long video to get it ready to post. Anybody ever tried to upload a 10 gig video to YouTube through Wi-Fi? It's pretty difficult. So I will get this video down and edit it and compress it and get it out there for you guys to watch, post again to some of your other team members. So guys, we had 9 minutes. We got the rock stars. And just to frame this again, like literally, Connor and Mike, what they've done at EXP, no one's ever done. I mean, there's some people that have built some big organizations, but if you're looking at, Rob Flick always said this: the number one earner of the company hasn't even joined yet. Well, enter Mike Sherrard, less than 2 years ago. So I remember we were on a call there. You're like, yeah, MFers, that's me. I remember we were on a call with Scott and all that. And so it's pretty incredible what's happening, guys. So
I have a question for you, Connor and Mike, and happy birthday, Connor.
Thank you.
If someone's and I know this is going to actually apply to a lot of us, if someone's starting that's willing to really bust tail and build from the ground up because they have to, if they're just starting, where would you start technology wise as far as YouTube, Facebook, promotions, ads? What would you do to build a recruiting structure like you have, because as far as people coming in training agents to be high producers, a lot of us don't even know how to produce icon level ourselves. How can we teach someone else to do that?
Yeah, you don't have to. That you guys got to stop creating limitations in your mind, first off, because like you have how many icon agents coaching your agents every single week? You're not teaching agents how to do contracts. You're not in the management process. You're not in the accounting department. You are in the growth department. You just have to attract agents to the company. Your only thing that you need to do is understand how to explain the business model. And the number one reason people fail is because they don't understand how to explain the business model. They never want to slow down to learn it. It doesn't matter which form of attraction and attention you're bringing in, whether it's from YouTube organic, whether it's YouTube paid ads that back trickle into your channel or something like that, because you can't run a paid ad directly to explain presentation, but you can run it to your course or your mastermind or Facebook group. But you guys got to understand, like, your ability to explain the model is the most important thing, not with the way you're generating the leads. And most people are not slowing down to understand what they're selling. It's like if you're selling a car and someone comes up and you're like, well, hey, guess what? I don't know what type of engine's in there, but I'm sure it drives, and they ask you a question about like power seating. You're like, I don't know. You can go check in there. Like you're not giving people what they're looking for, and they're going to go talk to someone else. But I'll let Mike handle kind of like the YouTube side of it because he's cracked the code to that. But I'll let you handle that.
Yeah. So I think this is the answer that nobody wants to hear, but is the reality of what everybody needs to hear, is that it solely depends on the individual, right? So I've done it through YouTube. And the problem is a lot of people think like, well, I'm just going to go do what Mike did on YouTube. Like what most people don't think about is I spent 2 years putting out 3 videos a week before I came to EXP in order to build my personal brand and my ranking on YouTube. And people want to start today and get the results that I've had by putting in 2 years of relentless, exhausting work before I even came to the company, right? So, but what I want to say to this, Eric, is that my forte is YouTube because I'm comfortable on YouTube. I know how to explain a clear, concise, compelling, credible message very, intentionally and strategically. You look at like Kyle Handy, for example, right? Kyle's done an incredible job at leveraging like blogs and SEO, right? So like that's Kyle's forte. If you look at like, some other people that I know, they've done really well with leveraging Facebook groups. There's some other people that I know that have done, they are embarrassed to get in front of the camera, and they've done really well with podcasting. Right. It's like, you have to understand, it's just like tailoring EXP's model to each individual, saying, hey, here's how it applies to you. You have to look at each agent that comes in and says, hey, here's how attraction applies to you. If you look at our group, if you look at the top leaders in our call or in our group, aside from Vinay, who's crushed it through YouTube, every other person has done it, and they're icon agents based on attraction in terms of like success follows success. They build a successful production business, and then they attract the people that they're doing deals with, or the people that want to be in line with them. Like, every single person has a different, unique approach and what is most natural to them. Because if you tell somebody that's incredibly introverted, shy beyond belief, and can't deliver a message through a hole in the wall on camera, and you tell them, hey, look what Mike's done on YouTube, you should go put out YouTube videos, they could put out 1,000 YouTube videos and they're not going to get a single agent, because people are going to look at their first 30 seconds of their video and be like, this person doesn't know how to talk. Why would I join them? But maybe they're great at writing. And maybe if you flood their blogs with SEO and post it on LinkedIn and post it on their website and backlink it, they'll crush it. So you really have to understand each person's skill set and what they want to do, and then find a unique way to say, okay, here's what you want to do. Let's go blow it up. Right. But you can't, there's not one trick pony answer to this question just because one person's done it in a certain way.
Well,
let me add this real quick, Connor, because this is something that I've identified. Everybody in real estate, you have a certain skill set, right? Whether it be marketing, whether it be whatever the case may be, whatever niche you're in, if you work bankruptcy leads, or you're great at for sale by owners, or you're great at prospecting expireds, whatever you're really good at, that's what you should focus and teach other people how to do, because that's what you're comfortable with. That's what you're passionate about, because it's worked for you. So that's the first way to find something for you guys to figure out, okay, what do I want to produce on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever the case may be. So does that make sense, guys?
Yeah. I want to leave it with this, Ian, about the behind the scenes runway. What Mike's talking about, guys, is like, it's easy to see a snapshot at the end product, right? You're not seeing what's gone behind the scenes for years up until that moment. For example, like, and people are like, well, how do you bring on a big player? How do you bring on someone like Mike? Well, I spent 2 years working 100 hours a week, doing calls with everybody, blowing me off, laughing at me, saying I'm laughing at EXP, joking in this, and getting rejected and having everything not go right, and then building momentum and finally gaining traction. So after doing thousands of calls, then when the opportunity shows up and that person shows up on the other call, you seize the moment. A lot of you guys just don't want to put in the work behind the scenes. And then when that moment shows up, that is the opportunity that you can change your life. You fumble the ball, you drop the ball. So Mike spent 2-3 years building this runway up that he's capitalizing on now. I spent years of my life behind the scene building skill sets, training, getting the reps in, so that when the opportunities show up in the present moment, you capitalize on them. And I think a lot of people are trying to go too fast. You guys need to build skill sets. You need to get repetitions in. You need to fail. You need to tweak your systems. You need to practice and get back, and you need to understand how conversations flow. And it takes a lot of failure to get to success. But once you get to where you have the success, or once you get to where you know what to do to become successful and have success, it's just repetition, doing the same thing over and over. So you guys need to be working aggressively today, building your skill sets, so that in the future from now, some moment when you sit on that call on a random Wednesday at 2 p.m. and it's somebody like Mike, you don't drop the ball and they don't go with someone else, right? If that makes sense. But you guys need to be working behind the scenes to get rewarded in public. And this is the thing, is when you guys talk to an agent, you don't need to be fearful that you're going to get embarrassed or they're going to reject you, because nobody sees it. So if you talk to an agent behind the scenes and you get rejected, nobody saw that except you and that person. But if you build a legendary business and it's public, everybody knows about it. So your failures are in private, but your success is in public. So why are you so scared to get rejected or get hurt or fail in private when nobody sees it except yourself? If that makes sense. I'll just leave it at that.
Great answer. Eric, that was a lot.
It was, and they filled up. Guys, we're all different. We know that, but y'all have some insight that a lot don't, because you are seeing success. Thank you for sharing. We greatly need y'all being in the leadership position, because you're really strong leaders, and glad to have y'all.
Mic drop. That's right. Guys, we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank everyone for taking their morning to spend with us. Connor, thank you so much. Mike, thank you. I know it's.
Hey, can I interrupt really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead, bud.
I'm sorry about that. I don't
know.
want to.
No, man, no worries. Go ahead.
Like, I do have a question for you guys. You guys mentioned a lot, learn the model, understand it, so you can be able to explain it to somebody else. What recommendations do you guys have for individuals trying to learn the model and kind of kind of break it down to somebody else who is looking into joining EXP?
Pull out that presentation and you go over it and over it and over it and over it and over it until you remember it. You just, I mean, really the best way to do it. I mean, that's the ultimate way to do it.
Best tip you can do. Do what Connor says, pull the presentation, study it over and over. The number one thing you can do is to record yourself presenting it and go back and look at it, because it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a driven entrepreneur, you're going to be your own harshest critic, and you're going to bash yourself more than anybody else could ever bash you. Study it, present it, look at yourself, tweak it until you get to the point where you're happy with how you look presenting it, where you got smooth transitions, you can deliver it with clarity. And then that is going to be the point where you can do it. Nobody else can do it any other way. It's the best way to do it. It takes repetitions, takes hours, and study somebody above you that does it. Because the way that I did it is I flooded Connor with 30 agents in the first 30 days. And I popped onto every single one of those calls and I studied exactly how Connor presented it and handled all the objections. That's 30 hours of training on the presentation in 30 days, right? That's how you're going to get to the point where you understand the model. Look at who's doing it right, follow them, study them, practice it, record yourself, reflect, adjust, tweak, crush it.
Yeah, you know, give them
Connor, Mike, a quick question. So Connor, your weekly mails does have the recording of your presenting it, correct? The model.
Yeah, and the video course, yeah.
Okay.
It's actually live though.
Recording in progress.
I just want to say one more thing to Ronnie and you guys to help to remember how to do presentations. So the first thing is you can break down a long form piece of content or a presentation into shorter form. So take, like, let's say there's 30 slides. I break into like 3 slide batches. Figure out what you want to say and rehearse doing one slide. Then rehearse that one slide, add the next slide, and then do this in 3 slide batches. Then take the next 3 slides, rehearse that one slide, understand what you want to say, how you're going to say the rev share, understand the next one, and remember these small chunks, and then practice those 3 slides with those 3 slides in the transition, and start doing chunks and going over the beginning and repeat the beginning, and if that makes sense. And then over time, through repetition, you're just going to know this unconsciously, but you want to take it and break it down small parts. It's going to help you remember it, or your brain will remember it a little bit easier.
Connor, is there someplace, and Mike, is there someplace where we can see Mike's video presentation and all your agents were practicing?
I keep mine private for my group, because if people saw how I present it, I might not have the group that I have today.
Okay.
So here's the thing, guys. I would suggest this: print out your independent contractors agreement. That's going to give you every single detail about the business model. Pull up the slide deck. There you go. Like, you guys got to get in the flow of looking at the slide deck and talking about the details that are in the deck. The deck is the guide to walk you through the model. If there's holes or gaps that you don't understand, refer back to your independent contractors agreement, and it's going to give you every single detail about the compensation plan, the split, the fees, the cap, the stock awards, the vesting awards, the rev share. All the details about that are in your independent contractors agreement.
And one thing I've done is to listen to a lot of different EXP explain presentations. So Connor does it twice a week. Rob and Scott do it once a week. Rich Tomasini does it in EXP Family Tree and Workplace. And there's so many of them, and you can get different perspectives from all of them. So, but attending those and local lunch and learns, you know, it'll just get into you by osmosis if you listen to enough presentations.
Awesome, guys. We're gonna shut it down. Thank you so much. We're 3 after. Jump into leadership. There's gonna be some amazing announcements. As always, if you're looking to increase your production, get into the iConversations every Friday at 10:30 Central. You can hear a panel of top and mega producers talk about the intimacies of their business and how they sell thousands of houses every year. So guys, I'm going to get this recording back and we'll post it on Team Disruptor probably over the next day or so. So thanks again, Connor, Mike, Chris, Terry, everybody that had something to say today. So thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
awesome.
Ian.
Later.